I'm a teenage girl with two brothers, one older and the other younger. We lost our mom when I was 3, and our dad remarried a year later to a woman named Beth. Their relationship seemed rushed, and they decided to marry quite quickly, possibly after only knowing each other for a short time. About a month after our mom passed away, our dad joined a widows and widowers group, where he met Beth. She had also lost her husband and didn't have any children. Soon after, our dad and Beth sat us down and announced that Beth was going to adopt us. My older brother and I objected to this plan, but our concerns were dismissed. Even some extended family members tried to intervene, suggesting that we would be taken care of without the need for adoption. However, Beth insisted that she was now our mother and that the adoption was necessary. We even spoke to a social worker and a judge, expressing our objections. Initially, our objections led to the rejection of their request, but they managed to sway the decision by arguing that we had no one else to care for us. They claimed that our family had already stated they wouldn't take responsibility for us if anything happened to our dad. Eventually, the adoption went through, and we discovered Beth's name on our new birth certificates. This revelation angered my older brother so much that he lashed out at Beth, expressing his wish for her to die so that we could be adopted again, as she was more replaceable than our mom. This outburst led to him undergoing therapy with our dad and Beth for 2 years until he moved out last year. He then sought adoption by her grandparents, as he couldn't find a way to reverse the adoption. Recently, Beth and our dad learned that I also wish to be adopted by our grandparents, as does my younger brother. Beth was devastated and expressed her desire to have the chance to be a mother and to be loved by us. Our dad proposed family therapy sessions to find a compromise, suggesting that we could still call them mom and dad while our grandparents adopt us. However, I expressed that it was too late for compromises and that they had already erased our mom from our lives. Am I in the wrong here? I don't believe so. While my father and Beth may argue that there's room for compromise, I feel it's too late for that. They've already disregarded our feelings and erased our mom from our lives. It's unfair to expect us to suddenly accept Beth as our mother when she hasn't earned that place in our hearts. Beth just wanted a chance to be a mother, so she took advantage of the situation and erased the memory of your mom. But your father's actions are even worse because he allowed it all to happen despite your objections and so soon after your mom's passing. It seems like he was eager to replace your mom as quickly as possible to restore some semblance of normalcy to the family. However, in doing so, he disregarded your feelings and well-being, prioritizing Beth's desires over yours. Mother-child bonds and love cannot be forced, yet that's exactly what your father attempted to do. Those support groups typically advise against making life-altering decisions for at least a year after a loss, allowing both adults and children time to grieve and heal. Your dad made a series of mistakes, rushing into marriage with Beth, bringing another grieving widow into the family dynamic without considering the consequences, and failing to prioritize your emotional needs. Before engaging in therapy with them, it's crucial to find a therapist who understands your situation and is committed to supporting you. Additionally, you may want to gather photos of your mom and explore options for obtaining your original, unaltered birth certificate considering the circumstances surrounding the adoption. On a different note, our neighbor's son, Nick, who is the same age as our daughter, AA, is a close friend of hers. They often spend time together at our house, enjoying activities like feeding the fish in our aquarium. Nick and AA have formed a strong bond, and they share a genuine friendship. However, there was an incident involving Nick at our house recently. His parents were out and sent him over when, unfortunately, one of the fish passed away. His name was Mr. Bubbles, and Nick was very sad, crying over him. After they calmed down, my wife and I prepared a memorial with a grave in the backyard and held a formal ceremony. Nick and AA drew pictures of Mr. Bubbles and wrote sentences from each of the other fish, Mr. Bubbles' friends, to read at the ceremony. We buried the pictures and notes with him. Nick asked if Mr. Bubbles was asleep. I had already had this conversation with AA when my wife's father passed away, so she would sometimes join me in my answers, but overall, the conversation was something like this. I explained that he wasn't asleep and that sleep is not the same as death. I told him that sleep is another way of existing for the living, while death is simply the absence of life and everything that keeps someone alive. We talked a little more about this, and he asked if Mr. Bubbles would come back. I said he wouldn't, but he would always exist in Nick's mind, and that is very meaningful. He asked if he was in heaven, and I said I don't know. The next day, my wife got a call from Nick's mom, saying we shouldn't have talked to him about this and that we were overstepping boundaries, especially because they wanted Nick to believe in the concept of heaven and purgatory. I had the conversation only because he was desperate for some answers and he was comfortable, but I still wonder if I overstepped a boundary. His parents were out and sent him over. When you delegate a child's care to someone else, you also delegate things like discipline, teaching, and life lessons. If his parents don't want things said to their kid, they can't use you as childcare. I say not the idiot. You answered in a way that was age appropriate. Also, you didn't deny the existence of heaven. You gave a neutral answer. The fish died in front of the kid, and there was no pretending. You handled it as diplomatically as possible to allow for his family's beliefs by saying you don't know where he went. You did not definitively say there is no heaven. And if he had said yes, Mr. Bubbles is in heaven, there would have been some rant about animals not having souls. The only thing I would do differently is maybe add a bit I don't know. Ask your parents, they probably do. However, this was a fantastic learning experience for Nick, handled with compassion and honesty. His parents should be thankful. My boyfriend, 29, and I, 23, are pretty affectionate and like to display that affection. Nothing too extreme, just holding hands, maybe some cuddling in the right environment, and a peck here and there. Nothing straight people don't do routinely. When we're at his parents', we tone it down, not because they're uncomfortable, but because his brother, 26, is, and we don't want to deal with the stupid things he says under his breath. There have also been a few instances. My boyfriend and I were tired of holding back our affection, just simple gestures like holding hands or a peck on the cheek because of his brother's discomfort. Recently, my boyfriend's brother introduced his girlfriend, who stays over frequently at their parents' house. There have been instances where they've been openly affectionate in the living room, which bothered me considering my boyfriend's brother always had a problem with our displays of affection. Fed up with the double standard, my boyfriend and I decided to stop holding back. We still kept it respectful, avoiding making out or groping, but we no longer suppressed our affection. Surprisingly, his parents didn't mind at all and even expressed relief that we felt comfortable enough around them. One movie night, as I cuddled into my boyfriend's chest with his arm around me, his brother exploded into a fit of rage, hurling insults and slurs at us. His parents promptly kicked him out of the house and refused to let him back in. Now, my boyfriend and I are facing backlash from his extended family, who are blaming us for making his brother homeless. I can't help but feel guilty that our innocent display of affection caused so much drama. But ultimately, it was his brother's unacceptable behavior that led to his homelessness. His parents have assured us that they're okay with the situation, but I still can't shake off the guilt. Am I the idiot? Definitely not. His brother's behavior is the real reason for his predicament. We maintained our composure and didn't engage in the name-calling and cursing. Moreover, it's baffling why a 26-year-old would resort to couch surfing instead of finding his own place. Perhaps there were underlying reasons why his parents reached their breaking point with him, and this incident was just the final straw. It's a tangled web when everyone's too preoccupied to communicate effectively, all while jostling for possession of that precious little nugget of righteousness. But let's be clear, you're not the one in the wrong here. Your brother is reaping what he sowed, facing the fallout of his own actions. You're merely a bystander to his self-inflicted drama. He could have handled things differently, but instead, he chose to throw a tantrum like a petulant child. Let's address the elephant in the room. It's your parents' house. Their rules reign supreme. This attempt by your brother to rally support from friends and family against you is textbook manipulation, the hallmark of either an inherently abusive or simply bullying nature. It smacks of cowardice, plain and simple. But fear not. There's a straightforward solution for him. Apologize, agree to keep the peace, and voila, no more homelessness. Switching gears, let's talk domestic dynamics. When you and your wife tied the knot, you both agreed she'd take on the role of a stay-at-home mom. Now, With a daughter in the mix and your wife dabbling in side gigs like dog walking, tensions have simmered. Your attempt to recalibrate the financial arrangement based on her newfound income sparked a heated exchange. But let's reflect for a moment. Adjusting the financial arrangement in light of her contributions seems fair, not tyrannical. Yet, the reaction you received suggests otherwise. Accusations of financial abuse were hurled, and somehow, your wife's desire to doll up for casual outings became a point of contention. It begs the question, why the paternalistic approach? Your wife is not a child but an equal partner deserving of respect. In the realm of marriage, equality should reign supreme. It's time to shed the control freak persona and embrace a more equitable partnership. After all, marriage is a union of equals, not a hierarchy of dominance. And if monetary matters still linger as a sore point, remember, it's not about who holds the purse strings but rather, how both parties contribute to the greater good of the union. We sit down monthly to manage our finances, allocating funds to our joint account and then transferring a set amount to our personal accounts. It's an equitable arrangement, ensuring fairness for both of us. But beneath the surface lies a more complex dynamic. You see, by footing the bill for household expenses and providing an allowance, it's as though you're compensating her for the role of wife and homemaker. And perhaps her lack of familial support leaves her more susceptible to this imbalance of power. But let's not overlook the significance of her personal autonomy, particularly when it comes to choices like makeup. It's easy to dismiss makeup as trivial, but for many women, it's a means of navigating societal expectations and maintaining self-esteem. And before casting judgment, consider whether your expectations align with a desire for partnership or merely a convenient arrangement. Reflecting on your relationship, it's evident that missteps were made. Rushing into marriage to resolve visa issues, coupled with lingering doubts, has led to a situation fraught with control and resentment. But there's hope for reconciliation, a chance to rebuild trust and foster mutual respect. Your wife's aspirations in the field of science speak volumes about her potential beyond the confines of domesticity. It's time to have an open dialogue, to explore avenues for personal and professional growth. And in doing so, relinquish the reins of control, embracing a partnership built on equality and shared goals. Switching gears to your wedding woes, the clash of cultures and expectations casts a shadow over what should be a joyous occasion. Navigating the intricacies of familial obligations and religious constraints is no easy feat, particularly when met with judgment from both sides. Yet, amidst the chaos, there's a glimmer of hope, a willingness to confront the underlying tensions and forge a path forward, guided by empathy and understanding. So, as you embark on this journey of matrimony, may you find solace in the shared moments of laughter and love, transcending the boundaries of tradition and expectation. I decided to have a candid conversation with my father-in-law, addressing his expectations head-on. I made it crystal clear that my wife and I wouldn't adhere to his standards in the future. He seemed taken aback by my forthrightness, asserting that I had crossed a line, especially considering his own religious constraints. Nevertheless, I stood my ground, emphasizing the importance of authenticity in our interactions. Upon returning to work, I found myself dealing with another issue stemming from the wedding. I confronted a coworker about her husband's rude behavior at the event. To my surprise, another coworker jumped to her defense, escalating the situation. It was a messy affair, with tensions running high and blame being tossed around like a hot potato. In hindsight, it's evident that this whole situation could have been avoided. Perhaps if we had shouldered the financial burden of the wedding ourselves, we wouldn't be entangled in this web of misunderstandings. However, it's essential to acknowledge that the financial contribution from my in-laws played a significant role in realizing our dream of homeownership. Despite the chaos and finger-pointing, it's crucial to remember the true essence of celebrating love and unity. The real idiocy lies with those guests who felt entitled to critique our choices, forgetting the fundamental purpose of coming together to celebrate a joyous occasion.